Welcome back to the Ben Mulroney Show. And if you know anything about me, you know that I don't have a lot of time for conversations with anti-Semites. I think that we're living in a time where anti-Semitism in Canada is no longer exceptional. It has been normalized. It is something that people just say, oh, it is what it is. And despite politicians saying this is not who we are, sadly, increasingly, this is who we are. And it is incumbent upon people like myself to call it out when I see it, to push back when it is offered up, and to do everything I can to remind the world that there was a time where Canada was a far better version of itself than it is today, especially on our treatment of Jews and our fellow Canadians who are of the Jewish faith. I'm joined now by a former minister in the British Columbia government, Selina Robinson, who is in Toronto, who at an event yesterday at the Truth Be Told event, describing her experiences with anti-Semitism in government. Selina, welcome to the Ben Mulroney Show.
Thank you for having me on, Ben.
So what was the event like yesterday?
So after I was fired from cabinet by David Eby, I was, of course, devastated because I had described Palestine, pre-Israel, pre-modern state Palestine, as a crappy piece of land with nothing on it. They couldn't grow an economy, and there was outrage. Certainly on social media channels. And
I remember that outrage. I remember it well, yes.
So I wrote a book about the experience, and I wrote a book about that detailed the double standard by which I was judged. I had colleagues who had engaged in anti-Semitic comment, insulted the Jewish community time and time and time again. And my job as the Jew in the crew, the Jew in David Eby's government, was the mediator. I would try to, make sure that people understood why they said what they said was anti-Semitic, try to, heal, try to educate. And that was acceptable for me to have that role. But I was treated differently. I was treated very differently, which is the double standard of anti-Semitism that we see so often right now. And I was fired. And I wound up leaving the party because it no longer felt like my party that fought for peace, that fought for justice, that treated people equally. I was being judged by a different standard because I was a Jew. And so I wrote a book about it called Truth Be Told. And I've been traveling around talking to groups, Jewish, non-Jewish groups as well. I'm going to Rotary clubs, I'm going to church groups, and talking about what the impact has been like, trying to educate people that being Jewish is more than a faith. We are a people, we are a nation that has survived for thousands of years, and that we are being treated very harshly right now. It's very, very frightening. I see what's happening here in Toronto. It is horrifying.
Well, yes. I mean, I saw just a few days ago, yet again, protesters have been entering Jewish neighborhoods, saying the most vile, disgusting, barbaric things, shouting people down in the communities where they're supposed to feel safe. And when a Jewish member of that community deigns to push back and counter protest, those people are told by the police, either stop, remove yourself from this position, you're antagonizing these people, or we're going to arrest you. And in some cases, they have been arrested. That, to me, is such a disgusting version of the double standard that you're talking about.
Again, it's the double standard. So I think that you opened up this segment by talking about normalization, and that's what it feels like. Our campuses are not safe places for our Jewish students. And when I was the Minister of Post-Secondary Education, I told all of our university presidents, there's 25 of them in British Columbia, and I said, I expect you to enforce your policies. You have harassment policies, you have safety policies. And I'm not just talking about physical safety, emotional and spiritual safety, social safety. These are elements of safety for all students. Yeah. How is it that we're okay that Jewish students are terrorized? They're terrorized on campus. They're afraid. And all you can do is saying, that's not who we are.
To me, I've got to tell you, Selina, when I hear a politician say that's not who we are, that to me is the Canadian version of when a politician in the United States says thoughts and prayers following a gun attack.
Exactly. And we are not seeing courageous leadership. After I was fired, from cabinet. I stayed on as an MLA. I thought, okay, I'm a government MLA. How can I use my role as a Jew, the Jew in the crew of our government? I thought, okay, I'm well connected with the Jewish community. I committed to reaching out to the Arab Muslim community. I said I would do that. And so I went to the premier and I said, listen, I'm reaching out to the Muslim Arab community in British Columbia. I think as a government, can't we just bring the Jewish community and the Arab Muslim community together to talk about the pain? I don't want to suggest that there isn't pain in the Arab Muslim community right now. What's happening in Gaza is horrible. People are dying. War is terrible. Can we talk about how hard it is right now to be here and to see what's happening there, to be afraid for
Yeah.
our family, for our friends? And I was told that work is just too political.
Oh, yeah.
And when my premier told me that, I thought my work here
Is done. Yeah.
But this is not why I signed up to be in government.
Selina, let me ask you a question then. What do you make then, and perhaps you see it as a good thing, that in the last federal election, there were over 300 candidates from across a number of parties that signed what was called the Palestinian Platform. And some of the points that they were espousing were quite ludicrous. The continued funding of the terrorist group UNRWA, as well as demanding the recognition of a Palestinian state without any preconditions for Hamas. To me, that's a bridge too far twice over. But 93% of the candidates who supported this platform did not get elected. Is that a sign of something good?
I hope so. I hope that Canadians recognize that it was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous platform. No, they didn't call for hostages.
Yep.
It's like, really? You're not going to call for the 59 people who are still hostages? I went to the Nova Festival. I want to urge all of your listeners.
Yeah.
It's here in Toronto till early June. Please go. I went yesterday.
Yes, the Nova Festival experience.
People need to see what happened. That's not to say, again, I think Israel, their government has some work to do. There's, it's not a perfect country by any means. Neither is Canada.
There ain't one. There ain't one in the world
to do.
There isn't a single perfect country in the world. Yes,
exactly. And so there's work for that government in particular. I'm not a fan of their current government, but I do think that people need to remember what happened on October 7th, 2023, how this particular element of a conflict has continued. There are hostages. And those people who signed on, they were not talking about peace, Ben. No. They were not talking about peace.
Yeah.
That is not going to deliver peace. And that's the part that frustrates me about New Democrats right now in this moment. They are not advocating for peace. Yeah. They are not doing the work of peace. And I think those are the conversations we have to be having.
Yeah. Well,
who's right, who's wrong.
Well, yes.
It's not good.
Selina, we only have about a minute and a half left, but, what do you make of the crossroads of the federal NDP finding themselves below the threshold for official party status? In my humble opinion, as someone who is not a member of that party, it feels like they were overly consumed by the struggles in Gaza versus the struggles of the working people of Canada. And it was and I don't know what they do next.
Well, in 2021, I saw their convention, and they are obsessed with Israel. There is an obsession. I called them out on it. I've reached out to Jagmeet over the years to say, your obsession is problematic, because why are you so obsessed with this one country, the one Jewish country, when there's so much other challenge with Iran, with Korea, North Korea, with China, with Russia? There's a lot of other challenging nations. But they lost sight. They lost the plot. I mean, from my perspective as a former New Democrat, but still a progressive, poverty is the number one issue. Affordability is the number one issue.
Yeah.
And they got consumed by other things, and by identity politics, which I think have a role to play, but not. They're so vociferous about it, but really they lost the plot. It's poverty, 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 folks. That's where we should be focusing. Yeah. That's what's going to make a difference in people's lives.
Selina Robinson, former senior minister in British Columbia. The book is Truth Be Told. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your voice.
And the book's available on Amazon and Audible.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.